When you talk as much as I do, you are naturally going to have wrong opinions. You're going to have wrong takes. You're going to have wrong things you say. You're going to mess up. That's part of doing this. And I'm okay with that. And sometimes it's actually quite fun to be wrong, because a lot of times when you're wrong, it is proof of why sports are so cool. So the Golden State Warriors won Game 7 against Houston Rockets. And if you remember last week and the week prior, as we were looking forward to these matchups, I said, what do the Rockets do better than the Golden State Warriors? I thought the Rockets were a better defensive team. I thought the Rockets were a more physical team, which would play in the playoffs. I thought the Rockets had more depth. And that besides pure accolades, and the Warriors are going to have accolades better than any other team currently going because of Steph and Draymond alone, that was the only thing they did, quote-unquote, better than Houston. And this is why sports are great. Because Steph Curry said, I don't care about your defense. I don't care about what they do better than us. I'm going to wear the cape. I'm going to be Superman. I'm going to show why I am one of the 10 to 12 greatest players of all time. And he absolutely did. This series was determined, and I know not every game, you don't need the numbers. Forget the stats. Steph had 2 or 3 games where his numbers were really good. He got you 25 plus points, was shooting the ball like crazy, doing Steph Curry things. Every other game, even the games he didn't play well, even the game where they were supposedly going after his thumb, every game except one, which Steve Kerr kind of threw the white flag and pulled everybody early from Game 6, Steph was the guy Houston had to centralize their defense around. Steph was the guy the entire game had to be based around. And he said, I don't care about your opinions. I don't care who's better. I don't care who does what. I'm putting my cape on. I'm going to be Superman. And that's why sports are cool. You could have all the opinions. You could have all the analysis. When it comes down to it, some of these guys just in that moment are able to do these kind of things, and you can't do anything about it. Steph was just better, was the best player on the court, regardless of the numbers, on a 7-game basis. Again, the one game where Steve Kerr threw the white flag and they pulled him out early, fine, you got me on that one. Besides that, Steph was the most impactful player in this series. And this is what Steph does. This is his superpower. When he doesn't have the ball, he is just as dangerous as when he does have the ball. That's probably the most terrifying power he's had as he's accrued the status of greatest shooter ever. The games where he has 30-plus points, fine, those are going to happen. But when he can collapse the defense because he secretly forces 2 guys, because you have to have one guy, which they use Dillon Brooks for most of the series, to play this super tough physical defense right in his face, try to deny and prevent him the ball. One guy can't do that. We've seen that throughout the history of his career. One guy can't do that. Just one guy playing denial and trying to prevent him from getting the ball. That's not enough. That's not going to get it done when it comes to playing defense against Steph Curry and the Golden State Warriors. So what Steph did the entirety of this series was just incredible. It was Superman. It was the reason why we love sports, because at the end of the day, we don't really care about your numbers. We care about the guys on the court, the guys on the field, the guys who can perform, and that's why Steph is great. Again, I don't have to know a single statistic of what he put up during this series. But when this series was basically over, when it was Game 4, and Steph gets the ball, he's walking it up the court, or I'm sorry, somebody else has the ball, Steph says, hey, give me the ball, and he goes, boom, 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 dribble, behind his back, hits the jumper. That was Steph, and Steph started, getting hyped up. That's Superman. That's why sports are great. We don't want sports so that someone can go, oh, look at his 30 points per game, and look at it. Luka probably put up way better numbers than Steph Curry in the first round. Where's Luka? LeBron probably put up better numbers than Steph in the first round. Where's LeBron? There's multiple guys, multiple playoff performers who probably put up better statistical fronts over their first games or the first round than Steph Curry did. But Steph Curry, because he has access to that Superman ability, even at his advanced age, and we haven't, and I say this all the time with Steph, but this is what's really incredible too, is we haven't even seen real late game Steph Curry. Because Steph is still a primary ball handler. Steph is still the top scorer on this team. Steph still does so much for the Warriors. Versus if they had another guy who was, we see glimpses of it, when Jimmy can be dependable with the ball and Jimmy can initiate some of the offense and Steph can just sit in the corner. That's when he is the late stage version of him, which is I can put the greatest shooter ever off ball, which is where every other great shooter ever has been in their career, and I can let Jimmy run the offense for a handful of possessions. I'm not saying I think the Warriors lose in this next round. Again, I didn't pick them to win in the first round, but that's what makes sports cool. They didn't care about my opinion. They didn't care about the opinion of anyone else. They didn't care about the numbers. They didn't care about the analytics. They have Superman on their roster, and Superman went to work. And that's why they won their first round series against the Houston Rockets. And shout out to Houston, because Houston is going to be here again. Ime Udoka is a great coach. He's now gotten 2 franchises. He obviously was helped build up that early Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown team with the Celtics. And then obviously now Jalen Green, Sengun. I think this Rockets team will be back. They were probably too young to make a significant run anyway. But shout out to the Rockets, Ime Udoka, what they built over there. You lost to Superman. It's okay. In the history of sports, Superman generally finds a way to come out on top. Transitioning from there to a team that I just keep putting down and a team I don't give nearly enough respect, or the league's not giving clearly enough respect, the Indiana Pacers take game 1 against the Cavs. Now, I'm personally not going to say this means they're going to win the series. I think Cleveland, I said yesterday on group chat, I think Cleveland wins in 5. I'm going to stick on that opinion. Maybe it goes to 6. We'll see. But I'm firmly confident Cleveland will win the game. Just as much as we just talked about Superman, what the Pacers are doing is the kiss my ass strategy. If you've ever just played a game of pickup basketball in your life, and you are clearly the underdog, that galvanizes teams. That galvanizes people. When you're clearly not supposed to win. A lot of high schools do this, where they play a varsity versus a JV game, or a varsity versus a freshman game. And it's a practice or a scrimmage. And man, are those freshmen and JV guys playing with the hair on fire. Because they know they're not supposed to beat the varsity team. The varsity team is bigger, stronger, better, older, all that stuff. But they galvanize around the fact of everybody thinks we can't do it. Real simple David Goliath type stuff. Tyrese Halliburton was voted the most overrated player by this anonymous poll that they put out every single year. And I think this is his second time being in the top 3 of most overrated. And the Pacers don't give a rip. The Pacers are showing up. Their guys, they're galvanizing around their guys. Halliburton is trying to prove a point. Like, hey, you guys think I'm the most overrated person in the league? Let me show you. Putting up consistent multiple 20-10 games in terms of points and assists. Miles Turner is playing well. The defense of this team, Obi Toppin, like this team who might be the most talented team we just don't talk about. We spent all year talking about the Thunder for obvious reasons, the Cavs for obvious reasons. We talked about the Lakers a lot post the Luka trade, and just what naturally comes with LeBron. All these other teams we've discussed, the Warriors post Jimmy. Not a lot of attention and time was given to the Indiana Pacers, who had one of the best records in the NBA, especially after the All-Star break. And we just don't talk about Tyrese Halliburton. We don't talk about the Indiana Pacers. But what they're doing right now, again, when the entire world says, no, I don't think you're good enough. No, you can't do this. No, you're overrated. When it comes down to what sports are at their core, I can line up me, my guys, versus the world, and we can go settle this. Again, you don't need to be the strongest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be anything. It's very varsity versus freshman, varsity versus JV. You guys all want to be the varsity team? Go for it. We'll lace it up. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you could be the varsity. You could be the number 1 ranked team. You could be the number 1 seed, as the Cleveland Cavaliers are. and we'll go into your home, and we believe and we can galvanize this 10, 11 guys, and we can go win this series, and we believe we could steal home court advantage, and that's exactly what they did. Now, again, I don't predict them to win this series. I think the Cavs will bounce back. I think the way Donovan Mitchell's kind of always been in this category of Donovan Mitchell's always been an underrated superstar. But again, when you're two teams that you've played for, Cleveland and Utah, kind of comes with the city. You're not going to get the same glamour as if you were doing this in LA or you're doing this in New York. But again, this is why sports are cool. And again, both these series I'm starting with, I was wrong on both, and I don't care. Because this is why I watch sports. I get to see the Superman in Steph Curry. I get to see the underdogs in the Indiana Pacers and Tyrese Halliburton. And you let that stuff play out on the court. Let that stuff play out on the field. That's why this is fun. It's not fun because you can analytic your way to an NBA title. Look at just the way the playoffs have gone. The playoffs have been defined by teams being tough, teams being physical, teams figuring it out. It's not just who is, for the first time in a long time, it's not just who shoots the most threes. We're going to talk about Greg Popovich later in the show. But Greg Popovich, again, I quote this all the time. He got annoyed with coaching during the late 2010s because he looked up and said, why is every game just, who hit the most threes? It wasn't who won the rebounding battle. It wasn't who was playing better defense. It was you looked at one line in the box score and said, that's who won the game. And we're not doing that with the Pacers. We're not doing that with the Warriors. You're seeing teams, you're seeing players step up. It's been a really fun playoff so far, man.